Sometimes artists say to me, but Krista, I'm just an amateur. An amateur. You know, the definition of amateur is someone who engages with something that they love. It doesn't have anything to do with money. And certainly your value as an artist also has nothing to do with money. So just keep making work. You're an artist.
Okay, hello again, guys. This is Phil McNally with the Artspeak program, and we try to help artists. That's the main thing that we try to do, and we want to help as many as we can out there. I know I've been gone for a little while. I'm back, so we've got a new person on board that we want to interview, and of course, me and names aren't the best. I want to go down the road. I'm gonna try. Crista Cloutier, is that who? Cloutier. Okay, so
Yeah.
we were close. So
Yeah.
but Crista Cloutier is a person that I have not formally met yet, and this is the first time. And I came across her just through different searches, and I do all sorts of searches for artists and other things like that. And I came across her, and I'm really looking forward to this broadcast to kind of get more in depth with her and talk more about what she does and how she does it, when she does it, and where she does it. So it's like it's going to be a very interesting show. So you guys kind of
I thought we were talking about art.
Oh yeah, it's all art. That's all I get into. So we're gonna be good there. So Krista, thanks for coming on board.
Pleasure.
And
Thanks for having me.
we want to kind of get to know you. As I said, this is not necessarily my own program. It's more or less the person who I'm interviewing's program, and we will talk art and go forward. So we may stumble here and there, but we're going to keep on going. So where did you come from and where do you exist at, I guess is what I'm saying. And I'm talking, I want to go back to childhood. So
Okay.
tell me how you were brought up, where you were brought up, and then we can get more into age old as far as business side. So you take it.
Thanks, Phil. I was born in Minnesota, and my family moved to Arizona. Like, it felt like everybody's family was moving to Arizona at the time, back in the day. They used to, in my classroom, the teachers used to ask how many of you were born in Arizona, and there would be maybe one or two kids. We were all new. We were all kind of thrown in there, which actually led to, some great experiences. It was a real level playing field back in Arizona back then. We didn't have just a lot of things that happen when there's old families and old stories. Everyone was starting over basically and reinventing themselves. Our parents were reinventing themselves. So it was an exciting and interesting place to grow up, Arizona. And since then, I've moved away a few times. Arizona always called me back, but today I live in France.
Oh my gosh. This is where we're talking to you right now in France? Boy, the connection is great.
I know. We're so lucky to live at this.
So what part of France and what city are you in?
I'm not in a city. I'm in Provence, and I'm in the middle of farmland. I'm surrounded by fields of cherries and vineyards, and it's like living in the most delicious refrigerator in the world.
Wow. Well, the States become just more of a visit than it is I'm going to stay here for any length of time. It's really my place is France.
My place is France. I mean, after COVID, I had to leave France because, complicated visa stuff. I was able to stay here before because it was pre-Brexit and I was a British resident by that time. But after Brexit, which was after COVID, then I had to leave and I went back to the States for a year. But I found I talk to a lot of expats about this. In a way, we ruin ourselves when we've lived
Mm,
overseas. We're never really at home in the country where we're living, but we really can't feel at home back in the United States again,
mm,
too. So it's a blessing and a curse.
mm. I could see that because you learn, I would think that I haven't traveled a whole bunch, but
Mhm.
I've traveled across into Europe a little bit, very small, once or twice. But I could see that, okay, they do this like that over there, and they don't do it like where I used to come from over here. So you kind of bring it back and say, God, I guess I wish America was kind of doing more of this, or America takes too much of this for granted. And it's kind of to me, it's kind of like a spoiled state to a certain extent. We all have
Mhm.
everything we want, and like you're talking about, it's a survival thing. England and France, when you go there, you don't have everything you want, or that
Right.
you need, or that you really should have to begin with.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And you have to get past that American impulse to say you're doing it wrong,
Oh yeah.
because, they've been doing it longer than we have. And different isn't necessarily wrong. But like that's all part of the learning and the growing and the discomfort.
That's pretty cool. That is, I like I said, I did not know this was going to be a French call, but it actually is, and I'm so happy that that it turned out that way, because it's just like we're artists are all over the place,
Yeah.
and that's kind of why I was kind of reaching out to this English one, and I try to reach out to others, because everybody sees it in different ways, and we're going to go into your business now and talk a little bit more about, okay, what is it that you do? And then I've got a whole bunch of questions in that point. So let's start with right now. Let's start with,
Okay.
where are you at right now, and what is it that you are doing? And then we'll go back on your history of how you got to where you're at.
Okay. Well, in terms of locale, I'm in a very, very hundreds years old farmhouse. I think it was a barn actually. That's in a tiny hamlet of 8 people in a farming community. Uh, and it's marvelous. I love living here. It's great to have such a warm community around me.
Mm,
And it's great for my own imagination and inspiration. I'm just finishing a book, which I'm very excited about. So I'm putting the finishing touches on that, and I'm planning my crowdfunding campaign to get it out into the world. I'm planning a retreat for artists to come here with another artist, Samantha Kaplan. We're going to host that next September. And I'm putting together some new workshops for artists about money and prosperity. And I'm also putting together a new program for artists to teach artist mentorship for people who want to do the kind of work I do. And then almost every day I meet with an artist to mentor them, talk about their work and their career. So it's a pretty full life. It's a lot of projects. It's a lot going on, my own projects and helping other people to their projects too. But it's all stuff I love.
you don't teach artists to do art, correct? You teach artists more in a marketing side of things and stuff like that.
Right.
And
Right. I teach artists how to talk about their own art, how to present their art, how to sell their art, price their art, all of that.
okay, so let's say somebody walks in your door or knocks on your barn door and says, "Hey, look, here's a painting I've got." And okay, quality's not really there. He's nowhere on the map as far as saying that this is where they should be. What do you do with somebody like that?
Well, I'll be honest. That's not my business. The quality is up to the artist. I've been in the art business long enough. I was a dealer for a long time. And this is a very uncomfortable truth about the art world. But the most quote unquote successful artists, you know, in the American term of the word successful, are not necessarily always the most talented artists. They're the more talented marketers a lot of times. So when I was an art dealer, one of the hardest parts of my job was that I would probably delete hundreds of emails every month. People writing to me, just like a lot of artists who are listening to this might have emailed the gallery director and said, hey, here's my work. Will you give me a show? And I did what that gallery director probably did. I hit delete because it's too much. It's just too much information coming at you, and it's hard to like go through all of that. Galleries, for the most part, are not desperate for artists. Everywhere we go, gallerists are being, approached by artists we know, artists who know someone we know, artists who has a cousin who met us once at a wedding 10 years ago. You know what I mean? It's like nonstop. It's almost like being a little bit famous when you're a gallerist, because so many artists want to show in a gallery. And it was really hard for me it was hard for me to hit delete. It was hard for me to turn people away. It was hard for me to say no to people. And it wasn't always because the quality of the work wasn't there. Most of the time, or a lot of the time, it was because it didn't fit my aesthetic. Every gallerist has their own aesthetic. They have the mediums that they prefer to show. They have the price points that they prefer to show, because they have their own clients. Just as artists have an audience, gallerists have cultivated an audience. So they have to keep their audience in mind. But even saying that, it breaks my heart, to say no to people. And I tell a story in my book about another event that really, really helped to force me into this new line of work. I was at the gallery one day. I was super busy. I was getting ready for a show, and I was going to be taking a trip. And this guy walked in with a portfolio. We didn't have an appointment. I thought, oh God, I hate this when this happens. I was just too busy to deal with it. I can't just stop and look at someone's portfolio. But he starts to put his stuff out, and it's just nothing like what I show. And I'm like, nope, sorry, we don't have an appointment. This isn't what I show. Sorry. But he started to cry.
Ooh.
And he didn't mean to do that. It just came out. He was so frustrated because he was so confused, because he didn't understand why. He didn't understand. All he was hitting were closed doors, and he didn't know why. And that stopped me in my tracks. We sat down. I had him take his work out again. We went through it. No, the quality wasn't there. But I realized at that moment, and it took me years to like start doing this work, so that story came full circle for me. But I really don't want to work with art as a commodity. I did that for years. And I learned a lot about it. And I probably know just as much, if not more, than most people about art as a commodity. I'm even trained as a fine arts appraiser. So I really understand the value of art in terms of numbers. But I don't care. Personally, I am much more interested in the creative spirit. And in the job I have now, I never have to say no to someone's creative spirit. My door is open for any artist who's willing to do the work. Now, a huge part of being an artist and working as an artist is to improve your crafts. You're at the top of your game. And that's something you almost never stop doing. You will probably work on your craft until the day you die. Because you're not going to retire, because I've never met an artist who's retired or has a retirement plan. And it has nothing to do with money, because I've known some really wealthy, very successful artists, but they don't retire. This is your life. This is your practice. So if you're willing to do the work, I will teach you everything I know about the art world and about the marketing and, how to present yourself. And then it's up to you to go find an audience and to work on your craft.
That's interesting because you bring up 2 points here that again through this time that I went through for the last 2 to 3 years, I'm finding relevance to more than anything else, and the commodity, that word
Mm,
there. Over here we are a freaking commodity. Everything
mm,
is a commodity here
mm,
in the States. It just like, and I believe we're just widgets, and
mm,
that's what they're looking for. And like I've got a technical background of 40 years, and that's kind of what I went through for 40 years. I mean, if we will bring you in, we'll use you, and then when you're used up or we don't need you anymore, you're out again. You're a widget. You're just, then we're bringing another widget and put them in your
mm.
place. And then we'll keep on
Yeah.
going. Widget, 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 widget. I mean, come on. So yeah, I mean, I could see as an artist, you walk in the door and you say, well, I'm not the greatest, but hey, I like you. And I like the quality that you got at this point. And you get better. And hey, you're doing great for my gallery. And okay, we'll keep you going. But then again, it's like, I need to make some room on a wall. And you've been here the longest, and let's get you off that wall and out the
Hmm.
door. Let's bring somebody else in and go for them. But I'm really good. It doesn't matter. You're not hitting. I want to go to a new mark. I'm a gallery owner. I want to go to somewhere else. I don't need this, or I can't spare the space scenario kind of a thing. I mean, it's just like I said, we are so much marketed as widgets. And I think if you get a person who comes to you and then starts crying in front of you because he doesn't know the answer, it's because he doesn't fit in that world, that there's a
Hmm.
lot of other artists fit, such as the Etsy people and some of
Hmm.
the Instagram people and all these other Pinterest people. And it's just like arts and little craft fairs. You go to a craft fair or arts fair and you see one tent that, oh my God, this person is great. Then you go to another tent. How can they sell that stuff? It's just so easy. I could make this stuff, kind of, it's like, okay, what do we do here? So the commodity thing, and is and I'm kind of seeing you on the other side of the fence now. I see you as far as interrupting that, because I think the deal that I'm also finding outside the commodity is you got to find your people. You got
Mm,
to find who works with you, who is like you, who actually does like you and is like you. And it just, that audience that brings something to the table that you can eat at, that everybody shares and everybody gets benefits from. Where I think the artists in the States, they don't understand the table. They go after everything in the world just to see what
mm,
clicks.
hmm.
And it's like, okay, maybe nothing at all clicks. And so here I'm at your doorstep crying because nothing's working. And I don't understand why. So you
Hmm.
bring out that understanding in other people as an artist standpoint, what you should be doing, how you should be doing it.
Right, and who you should be doing it with. And people ask me all the time, like, well, how do I learn about my audience? How do I find out more about my audience? And ask them. This is where we go back to relationships. If, your work is up in a coffee shop or an art fair or studio tour, and someone says, hey, that's nice, I like your work. Ask, make conversation with them. It goes
Mm.
back to it. Ask them, what they see in it that they like. Ask them if they collect other art, what have they got? Ask them, find out more about them and really listen to their answers and form a relationship with them. People love to be asked questions, hey, I'm here.
I
But it's
will,
true.
I agree with you to a point, but I will argue that because I've been asking questions since I was a little kid, and I would
Hmm.
always ask teachers questions. And say, why you're always asking questions? You're always asking questions. You're always asking questions. Well, I want to know. I want to know,
Right.
and that's kind of why I got you on board too. I want to know, who are you, how are you, and what do you do, and all this. And it's like some people, especially I'm sure you found in the art world, a bunch of introverts. I mean,
Mm,
they
yeah.
they don't want to break the jollies and say, oh yeah, tell me more about you. They say, oh, thanks for buying this, See you later.
Right. Or if I tell them to ask their audience, they'll put out, a questionnaire, through an email. And it's like, that's not forming a
No.
connection. That's not listening to someone's answers. That's kind of pushing people into boxes
Mm.
and hiding. It's hiding behind your screen.
Right. So what makes the Time magazine and art magazines and stuff is that they go deep down into, I've got a painting right next to me here that I've done, not the painting in the back, I got an Andy Warhol here. And I say, these people that I have no idea who you are or what you do. You're so introverted, you're so into yourself, let's drill. Let's figure out what is it that turns you on? How did you create that? There are some people who actually get those people to talk. The famous ones, or the ones that need to be famous or want to be famous, they get them to talk, to say, you got to bring more of yourself out. Now, he apparently didn't need to. He just painted and it was just talk anyway. Hey, it was the trend, it was the fad. But I think most artists, they are in a, not only would they put people in the box, but they are in the box themselves, aren't they? I mean, it's just like they got their head in the sand like an ostrich, and they're saying, hey, this is what I'm doing, but I'm too scared to talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of artists tell me I don't like to promote myself, or I'm shy, I'm introverted. And I say it's not about you, it's about your work.
Mm.
And it's about the people who are buying your work or interested in your work. You're teaching people how to see your work and how to think about your work.
That's a good point, because I've always thought, I need to put a story behind myself. I mean, stories are, if you really do, if anybody on this broadcast listens to this, I mean, the stories are now is that you need stories. Artists want, people who buy from artists, they want to hear more of the story than they want to necessarily see the art. Now, they'll buy your art, but they really are buying it for two purposes. I like the art, but I really like the story behind this person who did that art. And that's what they're trying to do. But there's so many artists who say, well, how do I get to talk to myself about myself and then put it out there? And I think you hit a good point. I said, don't talk about yourself, talk about the art that you did, which is a great breaking point from yourself, which is what you get hung up on, that I can't talk much about myself. There's not much background here. Nobody wants to know this part, but I can talk a little bit more about my art. That's a good ice cube breaker.
Right. And it's important to be able to put words to your art for all kinds of reasons. Artists always tell me, or often tell me, like, my art speaks for itself. And they don't want to write artist
Oh,
statements, and they
one
don't
of
want to write
those.
wall
Oh,
labels.
gosh.
Yeah, and it doesn't. And most art collectors, art buyers, not everyone is a collector who buys art anymore, and that's a really great thing. The doors have really opened. But they might not understand what your art is saying. So you have to help them. And we do that using our words. We use words to help people learn how to see our work.
Now you come into another point that I've been away from podcasting a little bit, but I did just send out one just the other day, and it's from a gallery owner, and he actually has created an AI called Theobot, and it's out there on my website, and it's also out there on the YouTube thing. I did it's about an hour long of him talking about Theobot, and he actually created an AI as far as a description of an image. And basically it's for artists. And you come in and you put if you can't describe which he says, and I think it is true, what and it kind of goes with what we're saying, that a lot of artists have a tough time describing their own art. They can do it, but as far as putting it into words, another thing. Well, you take this image and you put it into Theobot, and it'll take the image and actually go through AI and describe it himself. And it's fairly accurate. It's not that off, though some things need to be changed in it, some things need to be deleted from it, but it gives you a good paragraph of what a story is behind the art. So it's another thing of, you're saying, well, you're getting artists to try to create stories. Well, it's hardest for me to talk about myself, but it's
Mm-hmm.
easier for me to talk about art.
Mm-hmm.
Then you say artists need to put story or some sort of description on their art. Well, it's hard for me to describe the art in words, but it's easy for Theobot to do it for me, or at least get me started, and then I started working with it. So I'm kind of, being a technical background, I'm kind of on this AI to a certain extent, because I see where it can actually be a tool to help, not a
Mm-hmm.
tool to actually do everything, but I think it can be a tool to help in
Mm-hmm.
certain areas where an artist is weak. In fact, in certain areas where anybody is weak, I
Right.
think it can help with words and things like that that you can't necessarily get out. So I've used it every now and then, and some of the things that you're saying, um, I'm as an artist, if I was, to me, to just to do it myself, all by myself without any kind of tool, I would have a tougher time. I would have the stress.
Yeah. I think it's really important to remember something though. I mean, I know that it's not all of us are writers, and it is really hard to take something that's so personal and intimate
Mm,
and kind of you can't it's hard to use words to describe art or talk
mm,
about art.
mm,
But as important as it is for an artist to develop their craft, I believe it's equally important for an artist to develop their voice.
mhm,
Your work needs to
mhm,
be about something,
mhm,
even if it's, pictures of kittens.
mhm.
It's got to be about something.
So, based upon your escapades with I know you were at the New York, with the Los Angeles Museum, you were with so many different types of artwork and artists, and I know that what I've read is just, millions of dollars and stuff like that, and people, and we're kind of going across this. How do how do you see the art world in the same way we've been discussing it now as it was before, which it was like money, 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 and it's really not that much now? Do you see that change that you're discussing, saying that it's time to change? Do you see that actually occurring?
I'll tell you the biggest change I see in the art world is that when I opened my gallery, which, wasn't that many years ago, um, people used to like open the door a little bit and say, "How much does it cost to come in?"
Hmm.
And then I'd say, "It's free, come on in." And then they would be scared.
Yeah.
They were afraid of looking dumb. They were afraid I would be snooty. And I've been to an awful lot of galleries in my life, and I've been to an awful lot of snooty galleries. And that's kind of how the art world used to operate. We hid behind big prices, big names, big galleries with big doors, with big
Mm,
attitudes. um,
mm.
we used postmodern discourse to describe work that, it turns out that a lot of these words were just nonsense. Um, it was an elitist club, the art world, for a
Yeah.
really long time. And the
Bananas on the
internet has,
wall kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, exactly. The internet and, the fall of the modern gallery has really changed that. And for that reason, I think any artist can make it if they're willing to do the work, because those barriers are down now, they're gone. And you don't have to have a traditional gallery in order to, to make it as an artist. You don't have to have a traditional gallery to sell your work.
So let me
More and more
ask
people
you,
buy work.
that's we're going to throw me out here. So let's
Okay.
say I'm on the new wave. I say, okay, like the guy coming in and saying, "Where do I go?" and giving you the tears. I
Uh-huh.
No galleries. Say galleries are minimal. They're like you said. They see some sort of portfolio and they say, "I don't have time for this." Delete 100 at a time a day. Da da da. Come in and say, "Okay, how do I go about?" Now, I did mention at the beginning of this that I go about now. I'm seeing, finding people, talking to people, working with people locally, and then building that up email list and stuff like that. Do you see any change in that methodology, or should it be geared a little bit more stronger in one direction or another?
There's two words that I use a lot that artists hate. Those words are "it depends." I get asked all the time, should I be doing this or should I be doing that? Should I be doing Facebook? Should I be doing Instagram? Should I be, should I be in a gallery? Should I be an online gallery? Should I sell from my website? And I always say, it depends, it depends, it
It
depends.
depends.
Yeah, and it really depends. It depends on your work. It depends on your market. It depends on, what you have the stomach for. If you really, really, really get sick every time you go on social media, then you probably shouldn't be selling your work on social media. There's other avenues for you. So, what are you willing to do? Where are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What's your subject matter? What's your medium? Where are the people who would be interested in you? And then how's the best way to make real connections with them?
Yeah, because based upon the internet
Mm-hmm.
and YouTube, everybody's got a training session going on, how to
Yeah.
do it, where to go, what to do. The it depends is something that I believe in too, but it doesn't depend whether you watch this version of it or that version of it. It depends upon your version. It depends upon where
Mm-hmm.
you are at. I get that. So it's almost like we can sit there and say it depends, but you know what that may do to some people? That may take them off the scope and push them off somewhere else and say, well, I guess it depends on that YouTube video, or it depends on
Mm.
that thing over there. And then they're lost because they're not directed and they're not commanded or instructed to go those places. They're just saying, find it yourself, kind of a thing.
True. At the same time, I see a lot of people who do the kind of work I do who have a formula, and sell these formulas for a lot of money. And the art world is not one size fits all.
Mm-hmm.
Not every
Mm-hmm.
art, not every artist's medium, not every medium, not every work of art can really be seen well on a screen.
Oh,
Might not
not.
represent
I don't
well
think
as a
any can.
screen.
I don't think
Yeah,
any can.
that's exactly. Some pieces, it, yeah, it's you can't follow a cookie cutter formula that worked for one person. It doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Mm.
I mean, you can, if you look at their work and you see, like, you kind of jive with them, you kind of jive with their work, you think, maybe you share an audience, then yeah, absolutely, sign up for their course and learn what you can from them. Learn from other people too, and put your own program together as you learn more and more about your audience, as you connect with more and more people. But that's all part of the journey again too. You have to find your own way. Everyone has to do that.
And a lot of people don't want to.
Right.
A lot of
Right.
people do not want to.
I can't tell you how many emails I get that say, I'm looking for someone to do all this stuff for me.
Exactly.
And I
Exactly.
say, good luck with that, because I've not met that person. I've been around for a long time, and I have never met someone who wants to invest in someone who's not willing to invest in themselves. Invest financially, invest the time and the work. If there's an artist agent out there, and there are very few artist agents out there, they don't want to introduce a new artist to the marketplace. They want to work with someone who already has a market, who already they want to help them with the overflow. They don't want to help them set up. So you kind of have to, it's a business. And if you don't want to engage in the business, if making money isn't, remember, your art is here to support, you are here to support your art. Your art is not here to support you. So you don't have to get rich from your art in order to prove your success. You have to make the work to the very best of your ability. You have to keep making more, and you have to show it to people, because art is a conversation and it's got to be seen to be art. And if you want to take it into finance, if you want to make money from it, you absolutely can. But that requires a significant amount of work, like any entrepreneur, any business person.
I guess that's why you find most successful business people, artists or otherwise, um, they're loners. They're absolutely into their own thing and their own selves and their own way. And I believe they do that so they don't have interference and distraction from other people kind of bombarding them, hitting them on there and say, no, leave me alone. I know where I'm going. I guess defining your role, defining who you actually are. That means getting back into who you are. Now, but so many people here in the States, their interpretation of themselves goes by what other people are saying and what they talk about. Well, she said I was like this. So guess what I am? I'm like this. That's exactly what I am. I'm like that.
Right.
But you're really not. You really not. Do you
Right.
ever get inside? It's almost like the meditation needs to kind of occur or something like that. You just get off in your own world, be by yourself, get into yourself, know who you are. I guess that's why I like artists to a certain extent, because I'm somewhat introvert. Why I'm on this podcast, Dale, I don't know. But I'm somewhat of an introvert to the point that I can get into my art, but my art's also getting into me. And
Yes.
I'm getting into myself, and I'm finding myself at the end of working on a piece of art more than I'm finding my art, because it's like, when do you say your art is done? An artist never says their art is actually done. I could always done this and this, but what did you find in that, like you talk about, that journey that you just took for 4 hours, 9 hours, or weeks on this one piece? What came of that? What's the most that you got out of it? Well, I got a bad piece of art, but I did really get into myself a little bit as far as who I am and what I like and where I'm at and the story behind this piece of art that I just did. And I think
And
that's
this little thing I did in this part of it that I'm going to bring to my next canvas, and I'm going to like work around that because I find that really interesting.
Oh, I love that when you get canvas saying, I hate the piece, but boy, this little piece over in the side corner here in the right hand corner, I think that was great. I love it. I wish it was with the rest of the piece, but no, it's only in this one area. And I've been there many, 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 many times, and it's like it's like you said, it's a journey. There is no footnotes, there is no guide. Everybody is different, though they take similar journeys. They're all unique in themselves, and you have to be in that journey and work in that journey. You cannot buy somebody to do it for you, which a lot of them do, and it's not going to work. So it comes back to question of, who are you? And if you can't answer that question, you probably are not a very good artist.
Right. And the French farmhouse is inside of you.
There you go.
We can all make our own. We get to define success. We get to define that. We get to own our time. We set the deadlines. We set the bar. So be gentle with yourself, be generous with yourself and with your art, and support it. Don't demand from it.
Great words. Great words. Great podcast. I appreciate you. I really do. Thank you, Crista, for coming on. It's been a joy, and hopefully this will open up some people's eyes, saying, well, it's not all that bad. It's like there might be something good there. So let's go down that way.
Yeah.
Well, again, we thank you. And her site is theworkingartist.com. Crista Cloutier. Okay,
Cloutier.
Cloutier, I'll get it right.
Just
I
call me
know other
Crista.
people have mispronounced it, so I still.
That's right.
But it does fit France. I did notice your
It
last name
does.
must fit France very well. And again, we'll be talking to you. I will be talking to you in the future. That's for
Great.
sure. So we appreciate it. This is Phil McNally from Artspeak, and as normal, we want you to listen to our podcast. Hey, subscribe. Get on board. We're trying to help other artists, and any other information or questions you guys have, throw them back at me. We appreciate you being on. Thank you very much.